Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Donspektor here with another IEM review, and today I have for you the ZiiGt Nuo. Yes, we are taking a look at the other basically super budget sets out there, and after I already checked out the ZiiGt in my last review, today the Nuo. And we directly start with packaging accessories. That's the packaging here, again thin cardboard, pretty much what you can expect for the price point. Well, that is a bit different. Usually you have this plastic thingy at the top here. This one does come with regular cardboard. Easy to open. IEM would be in here. Foam at the top to protect it. You remove it. You get a set of Rendo as silicone ear tips here that come in S, M, and L. Again, not my favorite. These are a bit more squishy, but they just don't work for me that great. And that's already it in terms of packaging accessories. There isn't much to talk about here. And then we come to the IEM. And again, IEM Build first, and here let me see if I can remove the 2-pin cable. I can, not as bad as the ZiiGt. And yeah, in terms of IEM Build, for 20 bucks you get a pretty damn good build here. This is, again, a 3-part design, but it doesn't feel as flimsy as, for instance, the ZiiGt does. That means I think the resin or plastic here does feel a bit thicker overall. The faceplate is integrated just a smidge better. You can still see the seam around it here, and you can feel it, but it's not as strongly pronounced as it would be on the ZiiGt. And then on the front here, you have a separately integrated nozzle. And again, if I just pull on it, it seems to be integrated well. Like it just stays in there, there's no wiggle, it just fits absolutely as it should. The front of the mesh, the front of the IEM has the mesh here, as you can see, and that seems to be actually glued in very well. I don't see glue residues around. It's not like on a weird angle like the ZiiGt, and I'm also not sure if there's tuning foam inside. I can't see when looking at it, but yeah, overall this is absolutely well built IEM overall. Faceplate also seems to be integrated well, and the 2-pin connector, while not color matched, also doesn't wiggle around, and yeah. The only thing that I would probably prefer is a colored LR indicator, but for this price point actually this is pretty damn well built, and only something like the Q1 Pro is better built than this. But the Q1 Pro is also a bit more expensive. And then next we come to cable, and yeah, this is thankfully not the same cable that for instance would come with the ZiiGt, which, just for reference here again, this is ZiiGt's cable, so the standard flat cheap cable here. This one here is definitively thicker. As you can see here by the course, the rubberization around is thicker, and you also have an additional element here to actually grip on, and I like that quite a bit. However, what you do get through to the thickness here is generally this feeling a light bit more tangly to me, especially the top part of the cable. It's not bad at all, but still it feels a bit more tangly than the one of the ZiiGt, for instance. But it generally feels a bit more solid. So you basically, what you get here, a bit more solid of a cable with more tangle. That's the compromise you will make here. And yeah, in the details, as I said before, the cables is a bit on the thicker side here, and the 2 cores are twisted together well enough, there's no complaints. The chin slider here, color matched, and the problem, the splitter. Chin slider though is again the issue, has no resistance, like really it just moves without any resistance whatsoever and basically doesn't work at all. There's definitely some improvement potential here. And last but not least, we talk about the cable, the ear hooks here. Let me show you again rubberization. And as you can see, this is definitely a thin rubberization, and it's not even that springy overall here. So overall, even though this is a small bending radius over your ear, I think you should be okay, just because the rubber isn't really thick and shouldn't press on your ears. And last but not least here, the connector here, the 2-pin. That's a metal shell, and you can see a color coding here. So that's neat. You don't have a color-coded IEM, but you have at least the side color-coded in red, and here is just transparent. So overall, cable for this price, again, it's pretty damn good. Like, it's a tiny bit more tangly than your ZiiGt, but more sturdy, and I would take this over the ZiiGt. Next, comfort and fit. And again, coming from the ZiiGt, this is straight up, it's just an upgrade. What should I say? This is almost real semi-custom in shell, and the nozzle is a bit longer here, and that means it generally fits me pretty damn well. And I didn't use long tips with this one, just because, again, the insertion is a bit longer overall, but with medium and shorter tips, this fit me very well, and I have absolutely no complaints here. And I would say for the super budget set, this is probably the best, like, doesn't get better than this. And yeah, similar to the Q1 Pro, I would say. Maybe this a tiny bit better than the Q1 Pro, but it's about on par, I would say. So again, really good fit here and no complaints. Next, isolation. And yeah, even for this has a semi-custom shell and definitely is a bit better than the 02. It still doesn't isolate that well. I think this is because still this plastic or resin, it's still not the thickest, and it generally just, yeah, is not as well built, or I guess as thick as more expensive IEMs, and that means also you don't get the best isolation. But again, it's absolutely fine here, and it will be okay for most situations. Maybe in the really busy city center, even for the foam, it will not be exactly enough. But when I was going to the office and I'm not going through the main city center part, I was okay with the Nuo here. Not much complaints in terms of isolation. Next, drivability. And what should I say here? This is very close in terms of drivability to most other IEMs out there that have single TD. 32 ohms at 107 decibels per milliwatt at 1 kilohertz. It's an efficient single DD set. So again, like Apple dongle gives you like 85 to 95% of what this can. And if you go a bit further up in power, yeah, of course, imaging gets a bit better, bass gets a bit tighter, but that's about it. You don't get much more out of it. So again, don't worry about amplification. Apple dongle is absolutely fine. Next, we come to general sound characteristics, and almost exactly the same as the 02. Yeah, this is between a mild U to V-shaped IEM, depending on your definition. And I will again just mostly compare this to the actually 02. Because, let's get one thing out, the measurements that you see in the background are left and right, and you can see there's an actual channel imbalance here. To my ear, this is not audible. I perceive this side kind of like a combination between left and right here, where you have a bit more energy at like 4.5K, but also more energy at like 9 to 10K. So that means this one is definitively more in my ballpark in terms of treble signature. It's a bit brighter than what the 02 would go for, and that means it generally comes off, yeah, as a bit more brighter, as a bit generally more detailed to my ear. Even for the driver, should be less detailed, but just because there's more treble energy, it does come off as a bit more detailed. And again, similar to the 02, there is a peak past 10K here, and to my ear this actually is similarly pronounced to the 02. That means you have a bit of a, I don't want to say like artificial tone here. This definitively does sound way more natural than the 02, but there seems to be a peak somewhere in the upper treble. It's, to my ear, less pronounced than in the 02. And yeah, mid-treble, yeah, what should I say, like, again, it fits my characteristics or my flavor pretty damn well. And yeah, there isn't much I can criticize here. This is just exactly how I would IEMs to be tuned for the most part. And there isn't too much energy, for instance, for guitars. There isn't too little energy for guitars. Pianos generally sound nice. But also violins and everything else, like Nier Automata soundtrack, for instance, comes to mind here. Very well overall balanced. And it doesn't really matter what you throw at it. This is my flavor here, and it just works pretty damn well, even down to the lower treble / upper mids, where the 02 and the Nuo come very close. Main difference to my ear then is in the mids. While they graph pretty similar, I think overall this year has the quite a bit better mids. While I said I found the mids of the 02 to be slightly recessed, it's not the case here. The mids here have a bit of warmth, they have a good body, they have a good clarity, and they never feel like a bit lost. And really, when I sat down and I said with the 02, Chester from Linkin Park, a bit recessed, like not as energetic as he should be, yeah. With this IEM, not the case. It just sounds right. And really, I can't say anything negative about the mids here. Bass, yeah, I think this is probably the biggest disappointment for most. While on graph, again, 02 and Nuo are pretty close to each other, I think the bass of Nuo is definitively inferior. It doesn't punch as hard, it doesn't rumble as much, and the light roll-off you can see in the graph definitively is audible. That means in my benchmark tracks Mountains from Interstellar, there's a bass note starting at like 2 minutes 7 and dropping all the way to 2 minutes 16. Well, this only managed 2 minutes 13, maybe 2 minutes 13 and a half, which is a bit below average, you could say. So that means if you want a rumbling set, that ain't it. But overall, quality is fine. It's not bad at all, it's just fine. And then next, soundstage layering and imaging here. And what should I say? The Nuo seems to be a light downgrade in terms of that. That means you do have a bit smaller stage to my ear. And I think also layering, most of the time it's actually 3 layers. And I didn't really notice that I had 5 layers. Again, like in really well mixed jazz tracks, you might hear 5 layers. And imaging also seems to be a slightly bit less precise, even though there's more treble here. But overall, again, it's fine. It's not bad at all. And you can easily game with this. And I played a whole session of Sandstorm and I didn't have any problems with this whatsoever. And then separation dynamics and coherence. And again, I start with coherence and timbre here because this definitely is better than the 02 in my opinion. It's not metallic, it doesn't sound weird, the mids are not recessed. So the overall coherence and the overall timbre is definitely an upgrade there. And then, yeah, separation, again, it's okay, like it's fine. It's not the greatest, it's not the worst. And I again think that the 02 is a bit better there. And in dynamics, they are pretty much tied. Like, I can't tell you if either of these are better or worse in terms of dynamics. They are okay. It's pretty much the same. And then brings me to a verdict. Yeah, again, this is very good budget set. Like, in terms of tuning here, there isn't much you can criticize objectively. So objectively, I like this more than the 02. This is more my flavor. I would be even fine with 1 to 2 decibels more treble energy overall. But again, this is just, again, flavors of the same thing, and they are pretty damn well done. And combine this with the better mids that it has over 02, yeah, I definitely would use this over 02 overall. However, you are paying that with the worse bass here and the generally a bit worse technicalities that the Nuo has versus the 02. But if you are fine with EQ, honestly, just take EQ, give it 3 decibels more of sub bass, and you will be okay. This will be mostly up to what people like. And yeah, you won't have the best technicalities compared with 02, but the tuning itself is definitely better. And as I said, I would take, not better, it's more to my liking, and I would take this over the 02 just because of that. Oh, and of course, plus, right, comfort is better. So yeah, that's also a big plus. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have questions, recommendations, or criticisms, please leave a comment. Donspektor.